Incredible moment. Dying puppy gives heartwarming goodbye. Vet uncovers an amazing secret. Jake sat on the edge of his worn chair, eyes fixed on Max, the terminally ill puppy resting on the white exam table. Every breath the pup took felt like an echo of his own grief, an extension of the sorrow he had been bottling up since his mother's passing just a few months prior. The clinic was quiet, save for the soft hum of the fluorescent lights and the faint whimper from the little golden ball of fur. Just moments ago, the world felt familiar. A routine checkup that had quickly spiraled into a farewell. And through it all, there was Lily. Her tear-streaked cheeks a mirror to the agony Jake felt inside. His heart twisted as he observed her trembling hands cradling Max, the deep bond they shared evident in the way she spoke to him. "You're the best, Max. You've always been there for me," she said, her voice cracking like fragile glass. It wasn't just about a puppy. It was about love, loss, and the sting of finality, a lesson that life didn't always play fair. The specter of his mother's mortality loomed over him, intertwining with the shadows Max cast on the sterile walls. Jake knew what he had to do. The decision was weighed down by the heaviness of his dual existence, the compassionate veterinarian, and the man grappling with unbearable loss. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. He hesitated at the edge of revealing Max's secret. Moments earlier, Jake had stumbled upon his lineage through an old record tucked away in his crowded file cabinet. Something he had glanced at only in passing. It wasn't merely about a puppy. Max had roots, a champion bloodline that could breathe fresh life into his crumbling clinic, the financial strain gnawing at him like a hungry wolf. It was a moral tightrope, one that left him breathless. Coming clean meant turning a heartbreaking moment into a potential marketing scheme. Lily continued to weave her stories, and with every word, Jake felt the weight of his conscience bear down harder. The urgency in his chest throbbed. Should he hide Max's heritage for the sake of dignity, or reveal it and risk corrupting this sacred goodbye? He clenched his fists, muscles coiling as panic flooded him. Could love ever really be separated from business? How could he prioritize financial survival when there was a girl before him, embedded in anguish? As Jake prepared to guide Lily through the painful ritual of letting go, an overwhelming sense of dread washed over him. Max's eyes sparkled with devotion, as if he understood all that was at stake. Could one little dog inspire both healing and chaos in the wake of loss? This agonizing moment demanded clarity he didn't possess, forcing him to question himself. Was he willing to let the economic dread dictate the sanctity of life and death? The air grew dense, charged with choices that loomed larger by the second. Time stood still as he stood at the edge of this emotional abyss, torn between respect for Lily's pain and the desperate need to save his clinic. The answer eluded him, leaving Jake trapped in a whirlwind of doubt, desperate for the right step forward but standing still, completely frozen in anticipation of the decision that might change everything. As silence enveloped the clinic, the gravity of Jake's dilemma pierced through the sterile atmosphere. He could see the flicker of hope fade in Lily's eyes, a dawning realization that their time was running out. The seconds felt like lead, each tick of the clock accompanying the soft whimper of Max. In that fragile moment, Jake's heart raced with the weight of potential paths branching before him. The revelation about Max's lineage churned in his mind. Inside the chaos of emotion, something new staked its claim, a flicker of entrepreneurial spirit. Could his mother's legacy, rooted in compassion, intertwine with the relentless demands of modern business? What he envisioned was a demand for balance, humanness amidst commercialization. The grip of loss tightened as he recalled vividly his mother's warmth and wisdom. Her lessons about ethics and integrity shone through the dark haze of desperation surrounding him. Lily, still cradling Max, seemed so small in the vastness of their predicament. As she spoke softly to the puppy, each word dripped with love and respect, weaving an intricate tapestry of memories that Jake felt should not be disrupted by financial discussions. But buried deep within the heartache was an idea. People were more willing to support a cause that embodied love rather than just another sale. It was not just about an ailing puppy. It was a narrative of companionship, devotion, and the stark reality of impermanence. Jake's throat tightened with each passing breath. "Lily," he finally said, every syllable weighed down by uncertainty. "There's something I need to share." As he fought to find the right words, Max's eyes met his, an almost haunting gaze that underscored the bond they all shared. He felt the energy shift in the room, as if the universe was leaning in, waiting for him to deliver his truth. "What is it, Jake?" she asked, her voice trembling but hopeful, knitting Jake deeper into the fabric of this critical moment. The determination to stand by her side momentarily crushed the wave of self-doubt gnawing at him. He could be both healer and businessman, couldn't he? "Max, he's not just any puppy. He has a champion lineage," the words tumbled out, raw and exposed. The instant they left his lips, he felt two impulses collide, the sheer recoil of moral hesitation and the pulse of opportunity that sought to flourish amidst pain. Breaking away from traditional norms threatened his established identity and integrity. Lily stared at him, bewildered. For a heartbeat, a flicker of anger shone through her sorrow, before deep sorrow claimed her features once again. "Are you saying you want to use him for advertisement while I'm losing him?" "No, that's not what I mean. I'm saying if we can turn this tragedy into a legacy, we could help others, promote what Max means to us, to everyone. Raising awareness, helping dogs like him. It could be a campaign of love, not exploitation." The urgency of his idea brightened his voice, a desperate plea wrapped in hope. Lily's face shifted, layers of grief mingling with thought. Jake could see her grappling with the emotional and ethical complexities, and internally, he spiraled further. Doubt gnawed at him. Was he merely masking his fear of failure by creating a grand vision? Or was he onto something authentic? Jake's resolve wavered. Every response she crafted struck like a bell, forcing introspection. The pulsating tension electrified the air, as fear and a longing for redemption coupled in a symphony of conflicting emotions. "Jake, Lily's voice caught, battling between empathy for Mike's legacy and heartbreak. "I need time to process this." Time? What was time in comparison to the lifeblood of the clinic and strings of loss that entangled their existences? If we wait, it could be too late for Max, and for us. He had put it plainly, with all his fears laid bare, and now it was Lily's turn to confront this crossroads. One decision loomed, and the air crystallized with anticipation. Would they turn this farewell into something greater, or would it serve solely as a painful farewell? The unrelenting tide of doubt crashed in him again. Beneath uncertainty rested potential, but how would love and ethics prevail under such duress? The moment stretched, filled with possibilities, but ultimately it would be up to Lily to decide. With her gaze finally breaking away from Max, she asked softly, "What if we transform this into something where we both find healing? Together?" At that moment, Jake realized something profound. Their lives were intertwined far beyond their shared sorrow. The time had come for them to face an ever-deepening tumult, and Jake could only hope they could seize whatever lay ahead together. As the decision hung in the air, Jake's breath caught, anticipating the answer that could shatter or redefine everything. Lily's hesitation hung in the air, weighty and thick, like the humidity that clung to the city's summer nights. Jake studied her features, searching for signs of resolution, but saw only the flickering shadows of doubt. His heart sank a little further. This was more than just an emotional crossroads. It was a testament to their very identities and aspirations. If they took this leap together, they could reshape their lives, but was the risk warranted? "Together," he echoed softly, the word both a promise and a plea. "But what does that actually mean for us? What do we want to become?" Lily took a deep breath, steadiness setting into her voice. "It means acknowledging the pain, Jake. It means creating something that honors Max." There was a fire now, an ember of determination forming in her expression. But we can't lose sight of ourselves while doing it. Jake felt a hopeful surge within him. Perhaps this was the pivot point they needed, the moment they could bind the lessons learned from grief with the drive to instigate real change. He envisioned a campaign that cherished companion animals while making it clear that their worth transcended mere commercial value. Could they pioneer an innovative narrative, bridging compassion with business acumen? His mind raced as possibilities unfurled. What if we launched a platform, not only for Max but for all pets that face similar fates, drawing in support and awareness? A blog, videos, a social media presence. Lily's eyes sparked. She began to sketch ideas in the air. And it would be rooted in our genuine experiences, stories that showcase love and the bond between pets and their humans. It could involve donations for every product sold, supporting animal rescues. As inspiration surged between them, Jake felt an exhilarating shift. This wasn't merely about Max, it was about redefining their purpose. Each suggestion not only elevated the significance of Max's story, but intertwined their lived experiences with tangible impact. But he paused, a flicker of doubt creeping in again. What if we fail? But more importantly, what if we unintentionally exploit what is supposed to be a noble journey? Lily's expression softened, the resolve in her stance faltering. Those fears are valid, Jake. We must talk about every facet, the ethical implications, the marketing strategy, our genuine intention. All of it must be transparent. The complexities of entrepreneurship encompassed far more than Jake had anticipated. His mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions, excitement mingling with fear. Was he truly transforming grief into purpose, or merely dragging his anguish into a venture? Let's address those fears together, Lily suggested, her voice steady. We'll craft the messaging, refine our purpose, ensure that this feels authentic. We owe it to Max, to ourselves. The air seemed to crackle with potential, as Jake considered the change dawning before him. A collaboration that melded both of their strengths into something larger than themselves. He could never step away from being a veterinarian. It was his essence. But now Jake felt the vision of an entrepreneur emerging, someone who could shape narratives that changed lives. His resolve settled deep, each heartbeat echoing clarity. As he took Lily's hand, the warmth of her presence grounded him. This was a partnership, not just in grief, but in a bold new venture born of love. What's next? He asked, the thrill of possibility coursing through him. Lily's gaze brightened as if unveiling a secret. We start with local outreach, gather stories, create content that resonates. Let's be a beacon of compassion that invites others in. And just like that, the path forward began to materialize, filaments of hope intertwining with their joint determination. But beneath the surface, Jake still felt urgency gnawing at his insides. Would their venture withstand the trials? Could they maintain integrity in the noise of commercialization? The intensity escalated as the unknown loomed ahead, pressing them both to dig deeper into their motivations. As they outlined their plans, the resolve felt intoxicating. Yet Jake couldn't shake the feeling that every step forward brought a fresh wave of challenge. The moment had arrived to face the evolving reality, not just for Max, but for themselves. Turning towards Lily, he asked, "Are we ready to confront those who will challenge us? The naysayers?" Her smile was a fusion of excitement and worry, but there was determination in her eyes. "We must. This is just the beginning." The journey was fraught with uncertainty, yet exhilarating at the same time. Jake understood one undeniable truth. They weren't just crafting a story. They were beginning to redefine themselves. But as they pored over their strategies, a nagging feeling began to surface. What external forces would threaten their endeavor? In the background, an unexpected competitor was gaining traction, one that would test their resolve in a way they hadn't anticipated. And that was a challenge that would demand more than just vision. It would require unwavering courage. The moment of decision awaited just around the corner. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm orange glow that reflected the hope intertwined with their ambitions. Jake's heart raced as he adjusted their strategy. Each word they spoke seemed to carve their path. Yet, in tandem with the exhilaration, came the persistent shadow of uncertainty. whispering doubts that threatened to unravel the initial buoyancy of their ideas. "Let's start small," Lily suggested, her eyes focused on a blank notepad, eager to pin down their first steps. "We can create a social media page that shares stories of local rescues, promotions for adoption events, and tips for pet care." Jake nodded, inspired by her diligence, but the heavy weight of unresolved questions loomed. As they brainstormed potential posts, he struggled to silence the critical voice inside. What if we can't maintain momentum? What if it all feels staged when we're just trying to honor Max? Lily paused, looking up. "You're right. The authenticity factor is crucial. If we're not genuine, we risk losing everything." They spent the evening meticulously crafting a mission statement that encapsulated their essence: to celebrate the bond between humans and animals while promoting ethical responsibility. Each word etched their resolve deeper, yet Jake felt a simmering tension within. He wanted to ensure that what they created was a genuine tribute, not just another commercial venture masked as heartfelt advocacy. "Let's schedule some local outreach," Lily proposed, breaking his train of thought. "Visiting shelters, meeting the animals, and connecting with other advocates can ground our mission in real experiences." A spark of excitement ignited in him. It was one thing to talk about their ideas, but experiencing the heart of their cause could align their strategies with true meaning. "Where do we start?" he asked, his voice steady as he began envisioning the road ahead, a road strewn with potential connections. Before long, they plotted a weekend visit to the nearest animal shelter, eager to document the pets waiting for homes. In every description they crafted, Jake hoped they wouldn't shy away from the harsh realities of the situation. Abandoned pets and indifference, the very darkness they sought to combat. Yet, nestled within that sorrow, lay a boundless opportunity for education, awareness, and compassion. On the eve of their departure, as nerves coiled within him, he could not help but think about the contrasting journeys of success and failure they might face. Jake recalled his own experiences as a veterinarian, navigating the complexities of the animal care world where losses were frequent, yet bravery was necessary. There he discovered an innate resilience that had propelled him through grief's grip on countless occasions. "Is this venture really my calling?" he pondered. Lily was not oblivious to the storm of doubt gathering within him. "Are you second-guessing yourself?" Her tone was softer now, supportive. "You've faced obstacles before. Think of how you raised money to support our clinic's vaccine program, how you pushed to save those sick animals. You realize you have the ability to champion change, right?" The truth behind her words resonated deep within him. He had led initiatives before, rallied people to support causes he believed in. This was merely an extension of that. But the personal stakes felt higher this time, entwining with the pain of losing Max. "Maybe I just need to find my way," he whispered, allowing the realization to settle. It wasn't about leaving behind his past as a vet. It was about growing from it, allowing that history to deepen his current purpose. As dawn painted the sky with soft pinks and purples, a sense of determination arose that pushed him forward. Tonight was indeed a simple but profound step, and he was beginning to see how each moment of honesty, every connection to real stories, would pull them closer toward their goal. With excitement bubbling beneath their shared surface, Jake took Lily's hand, invigorated by that spark of potential. "We're not just starting a platform, we're cultivating a community of caregivers and advocates." As they stepped into the day that would propel them forward, Jake couldn't shake the unresolved queries echoing in his mind. What would happen when they faced the unpleasant truths about commercialization? Would they find the strength to stand firm against those who saw their venture purely as a profit-seeking endeavor? The thrill of exploration filled his veins, but lurking in the background was an alarming thought. There were forces at play, waiting to challenge every stride they took. Would their collaboration flourish or crumble? And with that, they set off toward a journey filled with promise, embraced by a feeling of tenacity, but beset by the impending trials that awaited them. As they navigated the layers of their ambitious venture, the duality of hope and fear blurred the line between aspiration and potential heartbreak, setting the stage for the challenges that lay ahead, a reality that would demand not only creativity, but also resilience. The animal shelter loomed ahead like a beacon, its unassuming exterior belying the heartbreak and hope contained within. Jake tightened the grip on the steering wheel, his heart thundering with a potent mix of excitement and apprehension. Each day presented a new opportunity, but as he looked at the aging building, he feared the weight of unfulfilled expectations might crush their ambitions. "Lily, remember, authenticity is key," he reminded her, echoing their earlier conversation. She nodded, but her expression reflected the same frenetic energy surging through him. Together, they had envisioned shifting perceptions, nurturing both humans and animals. Yet the shadows of doubt lingered. What if their efforts fell short? As they stepped inside, an overwhelming cacophony of barking and mewing enveloped them, a chorus echoing forlorn stories of abandonment and longing. Jake felt something stir in his chest, a combination of sadness and determination. Here were the very creatures that needed their voice. "Let's start with the dogs," he suggested, leading the way toward an area where playful tails wagged amid hopeful faces. He could see it clearly. Each photograph and post was not merely a promotional effort, but a rescue mission cloaked in vulnerability. They approached a scruffy terrier with sad, soulful eyes. Jake knelt, barely keeping his composure. "You, my friend, are the embodiment of resilience," he murmured, capturing a photo that would undoubtedly tell that unspoken story. Lily snapped pictures energetically, documenting every interaction. The two shared glances speckled with excitement and a hint of panic. What if their passion could not adequately express the deep currents running through their venture? Their shared purpose seemed to vibrate in the air, tangling with the hurdles that lay ahead. "Over there," Lily pointed to a small group of puppies tumbling over each other, each their own bundle of energy and innocence. Jake's heart ached. He wanted to save them all, but one puppy caught his attention, the smallest of the bunch, curled up in the far corner, lacking the bravado of its siblings. "Why isn't this one playing?" he wondered aloud as he approached it. The puppy looked feeble, and Jake's instinctual worries rose forth. This was the underdog he recognized all too well, the one that usually fell through the cracks. They spent the next hours meeting animals, capturing their essence through photographs and tender narratives. Yet as the day progressed, the specter of commercialization loomed starkly. Jake found himself wrestling with the concept of their venture transforming into a business. Could their mission remain pure amid metrics, growth, and the harsh brightness of the market? What if we face backlash?" Jake asked Lily during a break, unable to mask the unrest creeping into his voice. "What if someone accuses us of using these animals for profit?" Lily frowned, contemplating his words. "That's a possibility. But if we stay committed to authenticity, to sharing their true stories, how can anyone challenge our intentions?" As they had turned the exploration into a localized narrative, Jake had begun to realize their purpose might inherently require them to be vulnerable too. Could he confront the possibility of criticism while remaining dedicated to their heartfelt mission? The sun began its descent, casting a picturesque hue over the shelter as they prepared to leave. Something flickered in Jake's mind. It was far more than a question of promoting adoption. It was about fostering empathy, advocating for change from within. He decided to write a story about the smallest puppy, to build awareness about those overlooked. "And what if we incorporate that?" he mused, speaking as much to himself as to Lily. "Every week we could highlight one rescue that needs an extra push, a story of hope amid despair. We can't control everything, but if we align our voices with those who have none, it could amplify our mission." Lily's eyes brightened, and Jake felt a surge of purpose. The challenge now was to maintain the integrity of their work in the face of inevitable trials. As they drove away from the shelter, the weight of their project felt both monumental and essential. Jake wrestled with the realization that, more than just advocates, they were stepping into an arena full of potential opposition. What if their voices were drowned out? What if they came up against people driven purely by profit? Would they possess the courage to face it? The road ahead blurred, marked by both promise and trepidation. But one thing was clear. Jake was no longer the hesitant veterinarian grappling with loss. He was becoming an advocate, equipped and ready for the differences that lay ahead, embracing the stakes as he and Lily prepared to dive deeper into their mission. In the depths of his soul, he felt a stirring, a connection to the puppy and all the others waiting for second chances. But now it was time to confront an uncomfortable truth. How far would he go to protect that integrity once they began to rise? The following morning dawned with an air of urgency, and Jake awoke to a cacophony of thoughts swirling in his mind. The image of the small puppy, the one rejected by its siblings, was etched in his consciousness, a silent plea intertwined with insecurities about the path they had chosen. He rose early, hoping to capture that unfiltered essence, just as the rising sun filtered into their modest workspace. Lily arrived soon after, her eyes bright with ideas but shadowed by apprehension. "Did you manage to sleep at all?" she asked, setting down her camera with a weight of expectation. "Not really," Jake admitted, crossing his arms as he leaned against the desk. "I couldn't stop thinking about that little one. What if we craft our first story around it? I want to highlight not only its struggles but also how that reflects the struggle faced by so many." As they brainstormed, Jake felt a spark ignite within him, a sudden clarity. It wasn't merely about the puppy, it was about illuminating the stories of all those who go unnoticed. Yet he quickly faced an unsettling dilemma: how to balance their advocacy with the potential backlash they feared. Would the public react positively, or would they dismiss their efforts as exploitation? "Lily, we need a game plan," Jake said, glancing at her. "If we're going public with these stories, we have to prepare for criticism. We have to articulate our purpose clearly, focusing on empowerment, not profit." She nodded, but there was hesitation in her gaze. "What happens if people don't see it that way, Jake? What if we're viewed as attention seekers?" The thought gripped him. This wasn't vanity. It was a genuine attempt to save lives, yet the risk of misunderstanding haunted him. Could they cultivate empathy? Or would their message get lost in the noise? Determined to ground their approach, they began drafting the first narrative, pouring their hearts into the truth woven through the little puppy's plight. As the words flowed, Jake recognized an awakening within himself. He was no longer just a veterinarian. He was evolving into a storyteller, wielding words as a means to elevate voiceless creatures. Lily's enthusiasm grew as they collaborated, and soon they settled on a title. Incredible Moment. Dying Puppy Gives Heartwarming Goodbye. Vet Uncovers an Amazing Secret. It resonated with them, highlighting both urgency and hope. But with that hope came the nagging thought of how to navigate the backlash they feared. Before they could finalize their post, the shelter called. A crisis had emerged with a sudden influx of strays, and they needed all hands on deck. As Jake and Lily rushed to the scene, adrenaline coursed through them. This was more than an assignment. It was an opportunity to physically embody their commitment to the animals they loved. Upon arrival, they were met with an overwhelming sight. Frightened dogs huddled together, looking up for kindness. Jake's heart raced. It was here, among these faces, that he understood the significance of his voice. He would not only showcase individual stories but also share a poignant truth. Every animal's experience mattered. As the day unfolded, they worked tirelessly, feeding and comforting the frightened animals. With each interaction, Jake felt waves of connection and purpose, reconciling his self-doubt with the pressing need for action. Each small victory, each wagging tail or warm gaze, fortified his resolve. Yet, as they prepared to leave, a sinking realization hit him. The enormity of their commitment was just beginning. The public scrutiny would intensify with each story they shared, and the more success they achieved, the greater the chance of being misunderstood. Driving home, thoughts swamped Jake. What if they went ahead and faced backlash? Could he confront critics without compromising their mission? Before pulling into his driveway, an internal storm brewed within him. He couldn't ignore what lay ahead. Without action, without embracing the uncertainty, they would never fulfill their potential. The moment echoed in his mind as he turned to Lily. "The time has really come to face what we've started." She glanced at him, a mix of fear and unwavering support reflected in her eyes. This was no longer only about the animals. It was about revolutionizing their community's perception of advocacy. And yet, Jake steeled himself for the clash inevitable in the pursuit of their dreams. In the depths of his resolve, he understood. True advocacy demanded courage, especially against the tides of misunderstanding they might soon face. Would he be ready to defend their mission without sacrificing its integrity? As the stars emerged in the night sky, Jake felt the pull of urgency. Clarity remained elusive, but one thing was clear. A new chapter awaited them, fraught with challenges he had never anticipated. Would he rise to the occasion, or would doubt win once more? The following day dawned, draped in a muted light that felt emblematic of Jake's unsettled thoughts. He stared at the plain white walls of his workspace, the very same walls that had held countless hopes, dreams, and now, a growing anxiety. The contrast between his aspirations and the reality of potential backlash lurked like a specter, creeping around every corner of his mind. He could feel Lily's presence behind him, her work ethic always inspiring yet sometimes daunting. She was reviewing the rough draft they'd created, her brow furrowed in concentration. Her quiet intensity resonated with his inner turmoil. "What do you think?" she asked, catching him off guard. "It's good," Jake said hesitantly, knowing they were skirting around a fault line. "But I can't shake the feeling that we're opening ourselves up to something big, something we might not be prepared for." Lily set down her notes and stepped closer. "It's about vulnerability too, isn't it? We're exposing our own fears along with their stories." Her words struck a chord within him, prompting Jake to delve deeper into the fear that coiled like a serpent in his chest. What if he was not only seeking to elevate animal voices but also risking their own credibility? He recognized a fork in the road ahead, where naivete could lead to dangerous missteps. Determined to explore this further, Jake proposed to Lily a meeting with one of their local influencers, a popular animal rights advocate known for stirring public opinion. If anyone could provide clarity and advice on navigating potential backlash, it was her. Together they could amplify their message while safeguarding their integrity. With a fever of determination, they reached out and secured a lunch meeting with Stella. The next day, as Jake and Lily sat in a cozy cafe with the woman who embodied their hopes for media influence, a blend of excitement and trepidation coursed through him. Stella began with encouragement, detailing her experiences of sharing similar stories. "But," she emphasized, "it's vital to be authentic. Audiences can smell insincerity from a mile away. Are you truly prepared to face the scrutiny that comes with vulnerability?" Each point resonated painfully within Jake. The fear of exposure stung, but he also felt invigorated by the challenge. "I want to focus on the animals," he asserted, his voice laden with purpose. "I want to ensure that their stories resonate with the community in a way that fosters compassion and change." "That's admirable," Stella nodded, her keen eyes piercing through him. "But remember, the road to advocacy is littered with critics. You must stand firm in your mission even when others knock you down." As he listened, Jake felt a fire ignite within, a clear understanding that resilience was essential to any worthwhile pursuit. He had always believed in the power of connection, of weaving narratives that cried out for empathy. Yet, how much was he willing to endure for that connection? After their meeting, as Jake drove home, new questions emerged. He revisited every friendly glance exchanged with their furry subjects and felt a tumult of emotions. Was he prepared for the day when his own integrity would be called into question? He thought about being in the line of fire, not just for himself but for the animals who had no voice. "Can I truly uphold the values I preach?" he murmured to himself, a smile breaking through his thoughts as a glimmer of realization graced him. This wasn't just a matter of storytelling. It was an evolution of character, a stepping stone towards being a leader rather than just a participant. Returning to his desk, he began drafting a letter reflecting their commitment to authenticity and transparency. Each word was a pledge to himself and to the animals they served. There was no shrinking from the truth, no ducking away from the potential fallout. The stories he would tell would stand as a testament to his courage. As he finished, the unease swelled again, reminding him of the storm on the horizon. Would their mission weather the criticisms? Would the puppeted voices they aimed to uplift push hard enough against the expectations of the world surrounding them? Jake took a deep breath. The winds of doubt were fierce, but he felt steadier than ever. He was finally stepping into the unknown, daring to challenge not just external biases, but his own limitations. In that moment, he accepted that both his artistry and courage were about to be tested in ways he had not imagined. And as they prepared for their first public narrative, a new question stung his mind like a thorn. How would they respond when their decision to champion the voiceless led to unexpected backlash? Would they hold to their foundational truth, or was he still on the precipice of doubt? The next chapter loomed, a crucible waiting to reveal the man he would be. Jake awoke the next day with the residue of uncertainty lingering in his mind, a mixture of anticipation and dread coiling like a taut wire in his chest. The bright morning light seeped through his window, but it did little to dissipate the heaviness. He needed clarity, a way to navigate the storm that awaited him. His eyes fell on the hastily written letter at his desk, a reminder of the commitment he had made to authenticity, the one promise that now felt like a daunting challenge. As he prepared to meet Lily at their workspace, his thoughts turned to the animals they intended to help. Each tale carried its weight, its own truth that demanded respect. What if their narratives triggered unwarranted backlash? What if he was unprepared to shield them from the scrutiny that would inevitably follow? Lily arrived early, her energy infectious. As she engaged with the stories they had compiled, Jake watched her quiet determination. He envied her ability to dive headfirst into the work, seemingly unfazed by the moral labyrinth they were about to navigate. "Let's take a fresh look at our outline," she suggested, flipping through their files. "Sure," Jake replied, forcing the unease down. "But I think we also need to have a template for facing criticisms. If we're going to advocate effectively, we need to arm ourselves with the right defenses." "Defenses?" Lily frowned, lifting her gaze. "Or strategies. There's a difference, you know. If we operate on the defensive, we trap ourselves in fear." Her insight struck a chord. Jake realized the need to shift his perspective from fear of attack to an embrace of possibility and dialogue. "You're right," he conceded. "It's just, I worry about the backlash, the potential damage. We could lose everything." "Everything?" She raised an eyebrow. "Or perhaps this is our chance to forge deeper connections. The world needs this authenticity, and those animals, if we back down now, they lose their voice again." Her words hung between them, transformative and haunting. They weren't just fighting for their own narratives. They were entwined in a larger story that held immense power. Suddenly, Jake felt a surge of determination. "Let's reshape our message," he rallied. "We'll focus on the capacity for compassion, not just the stories of animals in distress. We can host a series of discussions that showcases both sides, the challenges we face, and the joy that kindness can bring. We must be proactive, not reactive." Lily's eyes sparkled with approval. "That's it. Let's humanize our narrative while acknowledging the tough realities. We can build a community of informed advocates who understand our mission." As they brainstormed, Jake's pulse quickened at the idea of empowering their audience. The weight of pessimism began to lift, replaced by a sense of co-created purpose. It felt like they were standing at the precipice of something monumental. Their collaboration flourished, with each idea feeding into the next. They outlined potential content for videos, interviews, and articles that demonstrated the beauty of compassion interwoven with awareness. Jake felt like he was rediscovering a creative spark he thought lost amidst his fears. Yet even as excitement bubbled within him, a separate thread of doubt lingered. The resistance from critics felt like a tangible threat in the distance, waiting for the perfect opportunity to pounce. "What if we're still misjudging people's willingness to engage with us?" he asked suddenly, the fear surfacing again. "That's the risk we take," Lily replied firmly. "There's always a cost to pursuing change, Jake. But we can't let fear dictate our actions. Let's channel that energy into something productive, something transformative." In that moment, Jake understood a profound truth. Their journey wouldn't just be about the stories they selected, but how they engaged with the world surrounding them. He was learning, evolving, adapting. Each decision drew him closer to the leader he aspired to be. As the afternoon wore on, an exhilarating idea blossomed in Jake's mind. What if they not only shared vulnerable stories, but also invited community members to participate in discussions about their own experiences with animal advocacy? It felt daring, yet revolutionary. But as he laid out the plans, his excitement was met with the nagging presence of fear. Would their openness invite the backlash they so dreaded? Was he truly ready to challenge not just external biases, but the deepest layers of his own apprehension? With a determined heart, he resolved to push onward, standing tall against the swelling tide of uncertainty. Yet a new question throbbed at the edge of his consciousness. Would their vulnerability be their greatest strength? Or a double-edged sword that could cut deeply when unleashed? Jake's mind whirled as he pondered the intricate tapestry of stories they were about to weave. Each potential narrative was a thread in a larger fabric, each thread imbued with the hope and pain of the animals they aimed to portray. Yet as he envisioned their work taking shape, the specter of criticism we've faced loomed ever larger. Was it noble to thrust their voices into the spotlight, if it meant drawing ire from those who might misinterpret or attack their intentions? He took a deep breath and glanced at Lily. Her focus was unwavering, and it inspired him. All right, let's think about the discussions. What do we want to invite people to explore? He proposed, hesitantly at first, but gaining with clarity as he spoke. We're not just talking pets, we're talking relationships, interactions, the way our society views animals and their rights. Lily nodded, her enthusiasm igniting a spark inside him. Yes, it's about transforming perceptions. We need to show the positive impact of advocacy, the compassion that can arise. Jake found his footing, the words pouring out. We can share stories that reveal insights, what it means to be an advocate. Let's ask community members to join in, to share their own narratives of connection with animals. It gives them stakes in this. But we must also be prepared for pushback, she reminded, her tone shifting slightly. Not everyone will see this the same way. Some might even feel threatened. The thought prickled at his skin. He knew that fear, and for a brief moment doubt crept back. What if their openness alienated those they were trying to reach? But he couldn't succumb to that fear. No. This was about growth, not just for the audience but for him. Bearing vulnerabilities might just be what they needed to establish trust. He pushed his unease aside and pulled out his notebook, jotting down ideas with fervor. Each scribble felt like another step toward clarity and direction. Let's design an initial draft for our first discussion, he suggested, tapping into a newfound energy. We can pose questions. How have our lives been enriched by animals? What challenges do we face in standing up for their rights? Lily beamed at the newfound momentum. Exactly, and we can host it in a way that feels inviting and open, a safe space for real conversations. They delved deeper, outlining topics and potential guests, unveiling a vision that felt daunting yet invigorating. As Jake flipped pages and wrote faster, something shifted within him. Confidence surged, replacing the lingering doubt. He tuned into the rhythm of their collaboration, feeling the synergy flow between them. But with each step forward came the quiet voice of trepidation. He began to question how much of himself he was willing to lay bare. Could vulnerability really be a strength, or would it open him up to further scrutiny? Was he prepared to expose his heart, to dive deeply into these topics and risk failure? As twilight drew nearer, Jake realized he had to confront himself. Lily, he ventured cautiously. What if I'm not ready for this? What if I can't handle the backlash? A perceptive look crossed her face as she paused, taking in his words. This is your journey, Jake. Embracing vulnerability, dealing with criticism. This is all part of it. You've already taken the first steps toward change. The question now is, how far are you willing to go to ignite that change? The challenge ignited a fire in him. He was beginning to understand that each of these inquiries was not just an evaluation of their work, but an examination of his own commitment to authenticity. The risk felt palpable, but so did the potential payoff, the capacity to connect, to resonate, to create a ripple of understanding in a world that often felt so divided. In reflection, Jake knew that learning to navigate vulnerability was as essential as any strategy they crafted. If he stayed shackled by fear, he risked silencing their message before it ever reached those who needed to hear it. And as the day stretched toward night, he made a promise to himself. He would engage with his fears, confront them headlong, and emerge stronger. He would not conceal his voice, nor allow it to drown in anxiety's depths. But another thought came to him like a whisper. If his journey was just beginning, What would happen when it brought him face to face with someone who challenged his ideals? The thought tightened around his chest, an unwelcome reminder that confrontation could be just as revealing as vulnerability, setting the stage for the tests that lay ahead. Jake stood in front of the mirror, confronting a reflection transformed, yet grappling with an internal tempest. This was not merely about the venture he had embarked on with Lily. It was about conquering fears that had long lingered beneath the surface. As the first public discussion approached, nerves layered with anticipation churned within him. Would he truly be ready to advocate for the voiceless? Would he authentically express his vision, free from the constraints of self-doubt? As he arrived at the venue, a cozy community hall designed to facilitate open dialogue, Jake felt a spark of excitement twine with his anxiety. The anticipation in the air was palpable, gathering around him as he caught a glimpse of Lily, her face illuminated by enthusiasm. She was setting up, arranging chairs in inviting circles that encouraged connection. This was the moment they had worked tirelessly toward. This was their chance to engage authentically with the community. The attendees filtered in, a mix of curious faces eager for voices of truth. Jake opened the floor with a personal story, a narrative that intertwined the pain of veterinary loss with the purpose he now felt. A commitment to reshape the world's view on animal advocacy. He spoke of Max, his mother's compassionate legacy, and how their stories could coalesce to make a meaningful change. Each word strengthened his resolve, slowly chipping away at the vestiges of doubt that had shadowed his journey. The initial tension hung over the crowd like a heavy cloak, but as Jake unveiled the truth behind their narratives, something stirred in the audience. People leaned in, engaged, ready to share their stories too. "Why do we stand for those who cannot speak for themselves?" Jake urged. The question resonated. Voices blossomed in response, stories poured forth, each woven with personal connections that echoed through the room. Their discussion transformed from an abstract concept to a collective heartbeat. Time spent fostering empathy, rather than merely conveying facts. For the first time, Jake understood that vulnerability did not equate to weakness. It was a channel for connection, a bridge that expanded their cause while reinforcing his confidence. As he sat back, listening to others share their experiences and challenges, the weight on his chest began to lift. This wasn't just about advocacy. It was fostering a community that understood and championed a shared cause. The initial apprehension melted away, replaced with a sense of belonging, one motivated not just by ambition but by genuine compassion. Toward the end of the event, a woman approached him, her eyes alight with gratitude. "Thank you for sharing your story. I don't think I would have spoken up without hearing yours," she admitted, her voice shaky but resolute. Jake felt a warmth bloom within him, a solid affirmation of the impact their dialogue could wield. They were building momentum, planting seeds of inspiration that could flourish into greater advocacy. By the time they wrapped up, Jake's thoughts shifted. This was more than just an endeavor to elevate animal voices. It was a mutual journey of healing. The courage he witnessed from fellow attendees shone a light in his own hesitations, demonstrating that every challenge brought opportunities for growth if approached with integrity and authenticity. Driving home, the apprehensions gave way to a flood of clarity. He felt lighter, invigorated by the profound connections fostered that day. Each sharing, each story, each face reflected back the unwavering belief that they were crucial to propelling this narrative forward. Yet amidst the triumph, the question lingered. Could they sustain this momentum? Would the forthcoming criticism be manageable when their vision was tested against the tides of scrutiny? The occupying unease was shifting, transforming into determination. They had transcended a barrier, and Jake was committed to ensuring that the intricacies of their mission remained intact, accessible, and rooted in authentic compassion. The first public discussion had solidified Jake's commitment, not only to the cause but to a journey of personal transformation, stepping firmly into the role he had only hinted at before. He felt a sense of achievement grow within him, a recognition that he had begun to reshape not only the narrative surrounding animal advocacy, but also the course of his own life. In that realization, Jake knew this was just the beginning of something profound. He had emerged as a leader, someone capable of navigating emerging complexities with confidence, compassion, and conviction. No longer would he flinch at the thought of vulnerability. Instead, he would lean into it. The space ahead was not just about achieving success, but about enduring and growing through challenges. Jake understood that authentic connections and unwavering diligence would fortify them against any potential backlash. They were armed with stories and the audacity to confront the world with them. As he settled into the comforting glow of his own resolve, Jake's mind buzzed with possibilities for the future. His journey toward becoming a transformative voice in animal advocacy had just begun. Now was the time to act, to embrace this new identity, and cultivate a legacy of compassion, elevating the voiceless while standing unwavering in the throes of challenge. The moment had arrived, and he was ready. This was Jake's evolution, the profound shift from doubt to solid confidence, an authentic realization of purpose intertwined with passion. The next chapter beckoned, full of potential, and at last, he was truly prepared to step into it. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.